Hey, this is Brandon Steele. Welcome to the Mainsail Financial Group Podcast series, where we host industry experts and local professionals to really help share some guidance, tips, some thoughts into the areas that they focus on and we don't necessarily get to day to day. Today we want to thank Kate Dorman for joining us. Kate is a self-proclaimed personal finance nerd turned financial therapist, so we're super excited to have you on today. Kate has her own practice, basically running financial therapy and helping individuals and families kind of understand their background, where they came from, and how that kind of forms their relationship around money. So thanks a bunch, Kate, for joining us today. Look forward to picking your brain a little bit.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. And maybe to get us started, do you want to share where we're at and why we're out here in Bellevue at a place important to you? Love to hear.
Yeah. So right behind us are the Bellevue Towers, and in 2010, I came out to Bellevue just for a weekend to compete in the world's longest stair climb, which took place in these towers. So I ran up both of the towers 2 times. It was over 3,000 steps. I did it in about 36 minutes, and I did it the whole thing while juggling.
I think you left that part out.
Yeah, I did the whole thing while juggling. Okay. It was really fun, and because of that trip, I was only here for about 48 hours, but I went into Seattle, I did all the tourist things, I loved it, and I just said I want to move to Seattle one day. So now I've been here for 9 years.
Awesome. Yeah, Kate was telling me about this before we started too, and I did the Columbia Tower climb a ways back. I thought that was special, but it's like half of this climb, so
still a challenge though.
Yeah.
Now I walk, just a couple floors up to my apartment, and I'm like out of breath. So.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us again here, and I think we'll kind of jump into the meat of today. I want to spend some time talking a little bit about just kind of general, financial attitudes and where some of our thoughts come around money. Some of the things that we're seeing, especially in the markets with all the, Robin Hoods and the GameStop craziness. Like, I just kind of want to step back and kind of pick your brain on some of those categories. So maybe a good place to start. Can you maybe share with me just a little bit on a general level how growing up finances can kind of impact our perspective on money when we're older?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, so as a social worker, I worked as a mental health therapist for many years, and you really look at how your upbringing shapes who you are. It's the exact same thing with money, and really even the year that you were born impacts your view on money, because depending on what year you were born depends on when all these other events happen in your life, like financial downturns, worldwide pandemics, and so that really, just the year you were born can shape your views on money. But your financial upbringing and your parents and seeing how they interact with money really shapes your own behaviors with money. For example, my mom, she did all the money stuff in the home. And my dad, he knew what was going on, but she's a real finance nerd like me. And I just don't think it's a coincidence that I am now a finance nerd, because I saw her role model that. And in a lot of homes, the man is the one in charge of the money, and so women don't take as much of an interest in it. So really your upbringing can shape so much of your financial behaviors and feelings, what you witness, and your family's socioeconomic status. If there's a lot of stress and tension in the house, that's something that even really young children can feel that, sense that, and they're aware at a young age of their family's financial circumstance and comparing to other kids what they have, what they don't have, what gifts they get, what gifts they don't get, and those things stay with us throughout life.
Is it fair to say then, like, I know this is generally speaking, and I'm sure it's case to case, but generally speaking, if you are, in a family where money is scarce, like, do you kind of have that mentality growing up versus a family where money is abundant? You feel that growing up? Like, is that fair to say that it kind of carries over across like that?
I would say, they're also so different, because people who grow up in a home where money is more scarce, it really depends. I think it can swing one of either way, right? It can either swing to also that scarcity mindset throughout life, or which could benefit you, or it could not. I guess, and same with abundance. Having that mindset of abundance can be harmful, like there's always going to be money, so I'm fine. I can put more on my credit card. There's always going to be money. So that abundance mindset could be really harmful, or it could be really beneficial. There's lots of opportunity to earn more money. So I guess, people stay in those mindsets to some degree, but it's what behavior comes from those. That's interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and it sounds like maybe that shapes a little bit of it, but then obviously as you grow up, your interpretation can kind of veer off in a different direction. Okay. Maybe to start going in the direction of some of the meat of our conversation today, I want to maybe start talking a little bit about the psychology of investing, maybe as a starting place. So can you just kind of speak to that broadly, like how maybe some of that carries over to not just like general finance, but also how we invest and some of the challenges we can run into as individual investors?
Yeah, I think the psychology of investing is fascinating. It's definitely really emotional, as is anything with money. With money, we think it's numbers, it's illogical, just do this, do that. And it's easy to tell other people that, but then when it's ourselves and there's emotions and feelings tied up, it's a lot more challenging. You probably experienced that.
I've seen that a few times.
I think with the psychology of investing, there's definitely, right now with the way the market has been the past couple of years, there's a lot of excitement and wanting to jump onto that. And then when the market takes a turn, there's a lot of people wanting to run out as fast as they can, which, isn't what you should be doing. But it's definitely, I think there's a lot going on there. I think some of it is kind of a, FOMO, or fear of missing out, some of that regret. I want to jump on while things are taking off, so I don't miss this opportunity. I'll regret it if I don't get in now. And then when the market goes down, it's equally, I got to get out now, or I'm going to regret that I didn't get out. There's a whole idea of buy low, sell high, but I think what happens often is the reverse. Because that's where the feelings get caught. And everybody's heard that phrase, buy low, sell high, but people, instead of consistently investing, they kind of hop on when it's really high, and then they're like, I want out when it gets low.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen a lot of that like the last 6 months, year or so. And I think, to your point, the FOMO thing is so important. I wanted to talk about that too, because as we see these like longer bull markets continue, people, that's where it really starts to kick in, I think. It's like, okay, it's been going on for 10 years, it's going to keep going.
Yes.
Right? So what can people, I think people also sometimes know that they have that, like they know that they're maybe acting on maybe not in the under the best assumptions. So how can people catch that and maybe react to it to make sure they aren't making those mistakes?
One, financial therapy, but also I think that it is really setting up systems and staying just consistent and not, but that takes a lot of self-control. And so people have to find what works for them. And so that's why even with something like budgeting, people try lots of different techniques to find what works for me. Similar with investing, how can I, be really disciplined? Maybe that means I'm automating everything this way. I'm just taking the emotion out of it and just letting the automation do its work. Because some people are aware of it, and I think a lot of people aren't. I think it's fun to a lot of people.
Sure.
And I heard something recently, kind of talking about GameStop and all of that from last year, but about how, and Robinhood, how during the pandemic, because sports stopped, a lot of people who were into sports gambling had nowhere to go, and they decided to go to Robinhood, which I found that really interesting. It makes a lot of sense, and I think the Robinhood really blew up during the pandemic, and I think a big part of it is just there wasn't much else to do. People thought, I want to get in on this. This is fun, and
And people were definitely making money while it was happening too, so I'm sure that just kind of added fuel to the fire, right?
Right, which I definitely think has its pros and cons. Like, it's great that Robinhood does make investing more approachable for people. I think people can be really intimidated by investing and opening a brokerage account, and Robinhood is really easy. You just punch in your 4 numbers and you're logged in, and you can hit buy, sell, and so it's definitely made it really approachable, which is great, but it can also be kind of harmful. at the same time.
Yeah, especially if you have a challenge with some of that FOMO stuff or whatever it might be.
Yes.
And I think just to piggyback on what you were sharing there earlier about kind of automating things, I'll kind of expand on that a little bit as well from my angle. Like one of the techniques that you're referring to that we use all the time is called dollar cost averaging. So instead of like, a big lump sum at potentially the height, hopefully it's the bottom, but potentially the height.
Right.
What you do is you just spread that out. So maybe every week or month or whatever it is, you have a set dollar amount going in.
Yeah.
So obviously, to Kate's point, if the shares are less, then you're buying more. If they're more, you're buying less, but it's the same dollar amount regardless. That's kind of what you were referring
exactly.
to. Exactly.
Yeah, just automating and that dollar cost averaging. Really, I think, the more you can do that kind of automation with all things financial is great, and it does remove the emotion as much as it can, because of course there's still going to be the emotion, but when you have to log in and transfer the money and make the purchase, that is something that a lot of things could hold you back or get in the way. And life, just day to day, we're busy people, and you might not have time. You forget until it randomly comes up or the market's doing really well, and that's when you decide to do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, seen that plenty of times as well. And I think, I want to come back to the Robinhood stuff, though, because I think this is really important. This, again, a lot of this, I think, hinges on a long bull market, right? So, again, we've had this awesome market and things start going really well. People are making money everywhere, and so these things start to happen. I have no problem with it being easy to trade, but one of the challenges, I think, is that there is this, like, gamification of investing. And I think that's maybe, like, to your point about the sports betting, one of the challenges with some of these platforms is that now it's no longer like investing, it's now a game, right?
It's fun.
Like,
it's fun.
So can you talk about how that impacts people, like people's brains, and how that psychology kind of changes when it's red or green or plus or minus, like all these kind of little casino looking things?
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, the colors, and just when Robinhood is when the market's closed for the day, it's black. I think the app turns black, but otherwise it's green. And it's definitely something that's really like stimulating now, and you can watch it change. Definitely just like Instagram, where you haven't been on Instagram for a few hours and your brain, like, you start to crave it. Very similar with something like Robinhood, where you start to crave it. People, they say don't check your investments every single day. But with Robinhood, people, it's not just every day, it's throughout the day. And it kind of gets in your head, and then you just kind of, it is to some degree an addiction, just as social media is. I think it's similar in a lot of ways.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. That's kind of some of the stuff that I've heard about it as well. And so I was just kind of curious your perspective. On the flip side, we've talked about the FOMO side of it. And again, markets have gone up and up and up. So this may seem weird to talk about, but I do want to talk about the other side, which is when markets do pull back. And unfortunately, a lot of people end up selling when they shouldn't there too. So similar question to the FOMO side, like how can people maybe catch that, and what can they do to make sure that they are avoiding some of those, pitfalls, I guess? Yeah,
we are really, as humans, really avoidant of pain and any kind of harm, and if we can reduce that, we do. And so there's lots of ways in our life we can't reduce that, but with investing you can, and so you can just pull all your money out, and then I won't feel that pain of it dropping. But so I think that's kind of part of why we do it, and in hindsight we end up realizing that might not have been the best decision, and I think it is something similar. Stay in the course, stay in the course. And I think talking with someone who, for example, a financial planner, financial advisor, who can, assist you through that difficult time, because I think having someone else who's logically telling you what to do with your money is really helpful. Sure. Because that is when people can get very emotional. It's nice to have the kind of logical side to like offset that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. That makes sense. What about for you?
I think I would agree with everything. I'll give you an example. Like in January, the markets pulled back, a decent amount. I think it was pretty natural, but But given where the markets have been, there were some people that were a little bit nervous. And so to your point, I think having a plan and saying like, hey, this is just how markets go. Like we have a strategy in place, remember, stick to the plan. I think that's really key. And so whether it's with an advisor or on your own, I'm not saying it has to be with someone like myself, but the plan is critical. Sticking to it, knowing that regardless of the cycles, you have a strategy in place.
And I do think also just financial education, learning about finances, looking at the history of the stock market, and dips are to be expected, throughout the year, and there's bigger dips sometimes, and but generally the market trends upward, and so having that knowledge doesn't remove the emotion completely, but it does, I think, alleviate a little bit of the stress, and knowing that, if I'm not retiring for 25 more years, it's fine. This downturn's not going to be nothing in that grand scheme. So I do think that kind of having some of that financial knowledge, reading about that, or watching YouTube videos about that to learn about the market is really helpful to kind of ease that stress. Yep,
that's great. That's exactly why we do this, right? Try to get some education out there. So
yes.
I want to come back kind of more general here, maybe to start wrapping things up. So we talked about how your upbringing can shape your perspective on finances and money as you get older. But regardless of where you come from, what can you do to maybe put yourself in a better position or think about money in a better way to get a leg up, I guess?
I think something I'm really big about is talking about money, just talking to people about money. And that's something that's so taboo in our society because by talking to other people, you're going to hear their perspective on money. You could learn something from them, either something you shouldn't do or something you should do. And I really think talking about it with people is so helpful then in those moments where you do feel like, I want to get out of the market. Somebody may say, I'm just staying steady, and it's, if we had a culture, I think, where more people talked about money, I think we wouldn't be doing the comparison game as much because oftentimes the comparison is, oh, he bought this for dinner, so I should be able to buy this, or I should be able to wear these clothes, but he might have as much credit card debt as I have, and it's, I think by talking about money and being more transparent, it would kind of get rid of a lot of this comparison and this FOMO, and just kind of being open about people's situations and people being open about what they don't know, and kind of seeking out where can I learn more.
Sure, I like that answer a lot. I feel like a lot of people talk about being educated on this stuff, which I think is obviously important too, but regardless of whether you went through a class in sophomore year of high school, if you don't talk about it for 20 years, what good is that going to do you anyway?
Yeah.
So I really like that answer. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it's something that hopefully more and more will become a normal thing because it's critical.
Yeah, and I think it's something that I learn things about myself and my relationship with money from my clients and their experiences all the time, just because hearing people share their stories, it's something that it makes me think, oh, like I do that too, and so it kind of is, by just talking to people about money, you're going to learn about yourself. It's going to draw awareness to some of your behaviors, the behaviors you want to change, the behaviors you want to reinforce. So yeah, I think talking about money is just like this, it does a lot of good.
Yeah, that's great. I like that a lot. Is there anything else as we wrap up that you want to maybe share with everybody as far as perspectives on how to make sure we're not making mistakes, or what we can do better to kind of get a better grasp on things?
I guess because you say the word mistakes, I think, part of personal finance and managing money, especially because we don't have a financial education system in place in this country, mistakes are definitely going to happen. And it's kind of learning from those mistakes, correcting course. So maybe at one point you did pull all your money out during a dip. That doesn't mean you're going to do it next time. It's a great opportunity to learn. We all have made financial mistakes, and we'll continue to throughout life, but I definitely think that there's always room for growth and progress, and
Okay, yep, that's great. If anybody has any questions for you, wants to get in touch with you, is there a good way for them to contact you?
Yeah, they can contact me on my website. It's soundfinancialtherapy.com. And then I also have my Instagram, which is also Sound Financial Therapy. So they can get in touch there.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. It was good stuff.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Yeah. And thank you guys for joining us. Of course, if you have any questions for us, you can reach out to us directly as well. info@mainsailfg.com. Thanks so much, Kate, again for joining us. It's really good stuff. So look forward to
Thanks for
sharing
having
it.
me.
Yeah, of course.